I had always known that family disputes could get messy, but nothing had prepared me for the day my sister-in-law decided to escalate things to the point of calling the police on me in my own home. It all started over a disagreement that seemed trivial at first, a small misunderstanding about shared responsibilities and boundaries. I had tried to be reasonable, reaching out to her multiple times to clarify things and even offered compromises that should have satisfied both sides. But clearly, she had other plans. It was a quiet afternoon when I heard the knock. At first, I thought it was just a delivery or a neighbor stopping by. But when I opened the door, I saw two uniformed officers standing there, their expressions neutral but firm. Behind them, I caught a glimpse of my sister-in-law, her face a mask of righteous indignation. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she had said to prompt such a response, but the presence of law enforcement at my doorstep instantly sent a chill down my spine. The officers introduced themselves politely but got straight to the point. They informed me that a complaint had been filed and that I was to be taken in for questioning regarding alleged trespassing and harassment. I blinked, trying to process what I was hearing. "This is my home," I said carefully, my voice steady despite the sudden rush of adrenaline. "I live here. I own this house." Their expressions softened slightly, but they remained professional. One officer asked if I had any proof of ownership. My heart sank for a moment. I realized that all of this could have been avoided if documents were more readily accessible. But I had prepared for situations like this. I calmly invited them inside, keeping my tone polite yet firm. I reached for the folder where I kept all legal documents related to my property. This was the moment I had to ensure that the truth became indisputable. As I handed over the deed to the officers, I watched their eyes scan the document. Their initial neutrality shifted subtly to surprise, then to disbelief. The deed clearly bore my name, the signatures were official, and the details matched the property in question. I could feel the tension in the room shift almost immediately. My sister-in-law's confident smirk faltered as she realized the weight of the evidence in front of the officers. "Everything seems to be in order," one officer said, looking up at me. "This confirms that you are the legal owner." The other nodded silently, closing the folder. My sister-in-law was pale now, her earlier bravado replaced by a mix of shock and embarrassment. She tried to argue, but her words fell flat against the undeniable truth laid out before everyone in the room. For a brief moment, the silence was almost deafening. It was a mixture of relief, vindication, and the unspoken realization that things had escalated far more than necessary. I took a deep breath, letting the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. I realized that sometimes, the only way to truly settle a dispute is to let facts speak louder than emotions. After confirming the deed, the officers politely informed my sister-in-law that there was no legal basis for her complaint and that no further action could be taken against me. They reminded her of the importance of verifying facts before making serious accusations, then left. Once the door closed behind them, I could finally exhale fully. My sister-in-law stood there for a moment, staring at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't need to. The message had been delivered loud and clear. The house was mine, and no amount of false accusations could change that. In the aftermath, I reflected on the entire situation. It was shocking to see how quickly family relationships could deteriorate when pride and misunderstanding took center stage. Yet, I felt a sense of empowerment knowing that I had handled it with composure, relying on legal proof rather than anger or confrontation. The ordeal taught me a valuable lesson about preparedness, patience, and the importance of keeping one's documents and rights in order. That evening, as I sat in my living room, I realized that the true victory wasn't just in proving ownership of the house, it was in asserting boundaries and maintaining dignity in the face of baseless accusations. My sister-in-law's attempt to intimidate me had backfired spectacularly, and I could finally enjoy my home in peace. The ordeal had shaken me, but it had also reinforced my confidence in standing up for myself, even when it involved those closest to me. From that day on, I made a promise to myself. No matter how personal the conflict, I would always rely on facts, remain calm under pressure, and let the truth speak for itself. The deed on the table was more than a piece of paper, it was a symbol of my resilience and the undeniable right to protect what was mine. And as I watched the sun set over my property that evening, I felt a quiet sense of triumph that no one could ever take away. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon at home, one of those rare moments when everything felt calm and predictable. I had just settled down with a cup of tea when I heard the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. At first, I didn't think much of it. Sirens weren't unusual in our neighborhood. But then came the knock at my door, a firm, insistent knocking that sent a ripple of unease through me. When I opened it, my heart sank. 2 uniformed police officers stood there, looking professional yet cautious. And behind them, unmistakably, was my sister-in-law, her face set in a smug expression that immediately made my blood boil. "Good afternoon," one of the officers began politely. "We have a complaint here and need to speak with you regarding allegations of trespassing and harassment." I froze for a split second, struggling to comprehend what I was hearing. "Allegations," I echoed, my voice steady but tinged with incredulity. "This is my home. I live here. I own this property." The officers glanced at each other briefly, maintaining their composure but clearly waiting for some form of confirmation. I realized immediately that this could go badly if I didn't act carefully. My sister-in-law had apparently convinced herself that she could use the police to intimidate me, but she hadn't anticipated the solid evidence I had prepared. Calmly, I stepped aside and invited the officers into my home. "Please, come in," I said, keeping my voice neutral, controlled. "I believe this will clarify everything." I led them to the living room and retrieved a folder from a locked cabinet. Inside were all the official documents proving my ownership of the house, the deed, tax receipts, and previous legal papers that confirmed my rights beyond dispute. As I handed the folder to the officers, I could see their expressions shift almost immediately. The first page alone, the deed with my name clearly printed and signed, was enough to start changing the dynamic in the room. They leafed through the documents carefully, checking each detail, their professional masks slowly giving way to surprise. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, looked as if the ground had opened beneath her. Her smirk faltered and her eyes widened slightly as she realized that her plan to humiliate me had failed spectacularly. This clearly shows you are the owner," one officer finally said, looking up at me. "All of your documents are in order. There is no legal basis for this complaint." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. My sister-in-law's face had drained of color, leaving only a pale mask of disbelief. She opened her mouth, perhaps to argue, but nothing she could say would counter the undeniable proof in front of everyone. I remained silent, letting the facts speak for themselves. It was a small victory, but one that felt profoundly satisfying. The officers carefully closed the folder and politely informed her that no further action would be taken. Their reminder was firm but courteous. It's essential to verify facts before making serious accusations, especially when it involves law enforcement. Once the officers left, the room felt strangely quiet. My sister-in-law stood frozen, unable to meet my gaze. I didn't need to say anything. The deed, the documents, and the calm certainty with which I had presented them said everything that needed to be said. In that moment, I understood the true weight of preparedness. Had I not kept my papers organized and accessible, this confrontation could have gone in a very different direction. But because I had taken the time to protect myself legally, I had turned an intimidating situation into a clear and unassailable victory. I spent the rest of the afternoon reflecting on what had happened. It was astonishing to realize how quickly family dynamics could shift, how a single false accusation could spark panic and tension. And yet, it was equally empowering to see how truth and preparation could counteract even the most aggressive attempts at manipulation. The experience reinforced the importance of staying calm under pressure and relying on evidence rather than emotion to navigate conflicts, especially with people who might try to exploit personal relationships for leverage. Later, as I walked through the rooms of my home, I felt a profound sense of relief. The house had always been my sanctuary, and now it felt even more secure, not just because of the legal proof of ownership, but because I had defended it successfully. The ordeal had been stressful, humiliating, and tense, yet it had also strengthened my confidence in handling difficult situations. My sister-in-law's attempt to intimidate me had failed entirely, and I had emerged with dignity intact. By evening, as I looked out the windows at the fading light, I realized that the most important lesson was not about the house itself, but about personal boundaries and resilience. Property can be proven on paper, but strength of character is proven in moments of confrontation. I had faced a challenge that could have shaken anyone, yet by remaining calm, prepared, and factual, I had ensured that justice and reason prevailed. That night, I slept with a sense of quiet triumph. The house remained mine, and more importantly, my peace of mind was intact. The incident with the police and my sister-in-law had reminded me that preparedness, composure, and the courage to assert one's rights are invaluable tools, not just in legal matters, but in life itself. And as the first light of morning crept through the windows, I felt reassured that no challenge, no false accusation, could shake me when I stood firm in truth.